Today, we're going to break down a really shocking moment of political violence, a physical assault on a sitting member of Congress. But this isn't just about one incident. It's about what that single volatile moment tells us about a much larger and pretty concerning trend in our politics. So let's get into it. So, let's start with the words of Representative Ilhan Omar herself, posted on X right after it all went down. This really frames the whole story for us. It's not a story about fear, it's one about defiance.
And to really get what that defiance means, you have to understand the attack itself. So let's set the scene for how a totally routine public meeting suddenly turned violent.
Okay, so picture this. It's a town hall meeting in Minneapolis, January 27th, 2026. You know, pretty standard stuff. Representative Omar is there, speaking with the people she represents. She's right in the middle of her remarks, and then, out of nowhere, everything just gets completely derailed. A man from the crowd actually breaks through and makes a run straight for the podium.
And what he does next is, well, it's pretty alarming. He's not just yelling or protesting. He's got a syringe, and he uses it to spray some kind of unknown liquid right at the Congresswoman. You can just imagine the chaos in that room.
All right, so let's just quickly recap the key facts. A man attacks the Congresswoman with a syringe full of some liquid, security immediately tackles him, and thankfully Representative Omar appeared to be physically unhurt right after it happened.
But, the story doesn't just stop there with the tackle. What happened right after, how Omar reacted, how law enforcement responded, that's just as revealing as the assault itself.
And this quote right here, this shows you exactly where her head was at. I mean, seconds after being assaulted, what does she do? She doesn't back down. She grabs the mic and, yeah, with some pretty strong words, she makes it crystal clear she will not be silenced. Meanwhile, the law enforcement response was incredibly fast. The suspect was identified as 55-year-old Anthony Kazmierczak. Minneapolis police arrested him right on the spot, and he was booked into Hennepin County Jail. The charge was suspicion of third-degree assault, which, just so you know, basically means they believe he intended to cause bodily harm.
Now, an event like this doesn't just happen in a vacuum, right? To really understand it, you have to look at the bigger picture, the political climate at the time. The context here is absolutely critical.
So, this town hall was taking place when things were already really tense in Minneapolis. There'd been a federal immigration crackdown going on, which had even led to some fatal shootings involving federal agents. The whole atmosphere was just volatile.
And the timing. Wow, the timing is so important here. Literally moments before that man rushed the stage, Representative Omar had just made a very pointed, very controversial statement. She called for abolishing Immigration and Customs Enforcement, better known as ICE.
In the reactions afterwards, they just show you how polarized everything was. I mean, look at this. On one side, you have former President Trump claiming, without offering any evidence, that Omar staged the whole thing. And on the other, you have the U.S. Capitol Police releasing a statement calling the assault unacceptable and promising swift justice. You could not get two more different interpretations of the exact same event.
Okay, so this is where we need to zoom out a bit. Because this attack on Representative Omar, it wasn't just a random one-off thing. It's actually a symptom of something much bigger, a really alarming trend that's been happening across the country.
And how do we know this? Well, we've got the data. It comes from the U.S. Capitol Police. They're the agency that protects members of Congress. Their own official reports show that these kinds of threats have been going up year after year after year.
And this chart, it just lays it all out there with stark clarity. Just look at that jump. In 2024, the Capitol Police looked into over 9,400 threats. But just 1 year later, that number skyrocketed to nearly 15,000. That is a massive increase in such a short amount of time.
Yeah, just take a second and let that number sink in. 14,938. And that's not just threats against the politicians themselves. That number includes threats against their families and their staff, all of them serious enough to require a formal investigation in just one single year.
So this is really the crucial point we need to take away from all this. That shocking physical assault on Representative Omar. It's not an anomaly. It's not a freak event. It's a single data point in a much larger, well-documented, and growing pattern of political intimidation in this country. And that leaves us with a really big question, doesn't it? As this kind of thing keeps happening, as this climate of threats and intimidation continues to grow, what's the ultimate impact on public service? Who is going to be willing to step up and serve in this environment? And what does all of this mean for the health of our democracy?